Let's talk about Hedera and the fact that it's pretty much gone through the roof this weekend. This is Monday, November 18th. I'm going to talk about 5 different things or reasons why Hedera is really moving. If you look at it here, you see this is the transactions per second. Here's the main net. It says 18. A second ago it was up to 52. What matters here is that not too long ago it had dropped significantly. There it is, 61, down to like 2 and 1 when that Avery Dennison company, I believe it was Atma.io, had seemed to stop using it. But regardless, let's talk about 5 things. But first, why I believe Hedera and what happened this weekend is much bigger than you might realize, in my opinion. I always have to say, big dumb animal, don't do what I do. That's my disclaimer, informational purposes only. Okay, why do I think it's such a big deal? Because if you look at just CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko or whatever, and you go down the list, you're not going to see huge jumps in some of these top 100. XRP had a nice jump, XLM had a nice jump, but they were pretty low to begin with. Then you've got the next biggest one is Hedera, which I think not too long ago was in the 30s or 40s, but 130% over this weekend. My goodness, it's 160%. 0.14 as I'm recording this Monday, 11:30 Eastern time in the US. It jumped up. I think it's going to continue to skyrocket. Now, why do I think this is a big deal? In crypto, you're going to see, once the bull run really starts, liquidity starts coming into the market, all markets for the next 12 months or so, with all the various banks, central banks throughout the world pumping money into the system. You're going to see the fact that, as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. But not all boats in crypto are rising because on their own they're doing well. Some of them will just rise because everything's rising. They will come down a lot harder. I believe this weekend and Hedera's pump is so important because of the fact that this is growing Hedera based on real fundamental reasons. So first, let's look at just the total market so I can tell you what I mean. This is where it was around March and April. This blue line here, it's gotten through that, the highs of March and April. And then this was the last bull run in 21, 1.1 trillion represented by that orange line. As you can see, we're far off from just hitting that line from the last bull run. And we believe we're going to go through it in a big way. So are we really in a bull run yet? If we look at Dune, familiar with this indicator, it's still saying, hey, you should be buying alts. Alts aren't moving yet. Why? Because Bitcoin is still dominating. Let's see if that's true. If we look at the Bitcoin dominance on CoinMarketCap, it's BTC.D. It's around 59-60%. You can see its upward trajectory. It hasn't really had a huge fall. It's doing what it always does. Last time it was around 72%. Who knows what it's going to go to? One could argue that the bull run hasn't really started yet. Bitcoin's still dominating. The money hasn't flown through to alts. Okay, if that's the case, then Hedera is an outlier. And it's rising because of good news. Let's go over 5 things. First, this was interesting. This was from their Twitter, but India's #1 university for engineering just launched a startup incubator on Hedera. Personally, I think it's a big deal when colleges get involved. These are the new up-and-coming engineers, software engineers, electrical engineers, blockchain engineers, whatever you want to call them. And this is one, they say they got 12 teams built up of India's brightest young minds. Will be launching on Hedera. It says per year. So maybe that means that every new class that's coming in, they're going to have 12 teams. I don't know. That's a big deal. They're working with colleges, hugely important. Governments work with colleges. A lot of good things come out of college research. All right. Second thing, interesting. The French state-owned energy supplier has multiple projects in development on the Hedera Guardian. Together with Redex and Recursive Labs, EDF completed their POC for renewable energy certificates. Okay, and who are these individuals? Well, if we go to the governing council, they're on the governing council. They are here. EDF, headquarters, Paris, France, member since 2021. You can do 2 terms, I believe, and I think they're either 3 or 4 years. All members have a 3-year term with up to 2 consecutive terms. They can do 6 years. The guy in there, 21, So they can be there until 27. Who knows? They can always change that. But that's great. They're up and running. Awesome. Saucerswap Labs. This is the third thing. Look at this. The Hedera ecosystem is experiencing unprecedented growth. Saucerswap continues to be at the heart of this expansion. So here's Saucerswap if you haven't used it before. Saucerswap.finance. You can see their basic stats. You connect a wallet. I use the hash pack. All right. Here's what they said. In just the past 24 hours alone, and I believe they posted this November 16th. All right, so that was Friday. More than 50,000 trades executed, 15 million in trading volume, thousands of active unique users and counting. The leading decentralized exchange on Hedera. We proudly provide crucial infrastructure powering DeFi activity. Okay, that's impressive. They're crushing it. That's the third thing, Saucerswap. So on November 16th, this person happened to post and then they reposted. Did you know Hedera was the only blockchain in the U.S. State Department Summit for Democracy? So this is kind of floating back around that they were in this Hedera convening democracy roundtable on how blockchain technology supports human rights, transparency, and sustainability. And there's a paragraph, the only blockchain mentioned, and this was put out by the State Department. What that really means in terms of growth, I don't know, but all news is good news, even if it's old news. Okay, that has come circulating back around. That was the fourth thing. The fifth thing, which you may have seen, was that Canary Capital filed for the ETF, and they filed on November 12th for a HBAR ETF. And you might think, big deal. You know, they just filled out a form, signed their name, and filed it. No. Form S1 registration statement under the Securities Act of 1933. I'm not going to scroll through the whole thing, but I will show you that it is 96 to 100. It's around 100 pages. So this is a big deal to put one of these together. It's no joke. You're not going to do it for thousands of coins. You're going to do it for those that you think there's actually going to be interest in, because they don't make money unless there's money in there, because they're taking a fee. They got to go through accounting firms. They got to be audited. They've got to have lawyers. There's a lot of expenses involved in doing something like this. So that is a huge deal. So those were the 5 things that basically happened over the weekend in terms of news coming out. So let's look at the price action. Now, I've said before, and I always tell you if I own it, I own it. It's one of my largest holdings, but I was buying in around, I think 0.10. And then when it dropped, I just kept buying and buying. And I think my average is maybe 8 cents. It's around 14 cents now. These were my own little lines. They don't mean much. But to me, these were significant things. And I think it's broken through 2 fairly significant ones. And it looks to me like it's on a tear. This is the on-balance volume down here. That is a significant amount of volume that is pushing this up. Volume precedes price. You want to see that. That's important. Where do I think Hedera is going? I would not be surprised to see $1. As a matter of fact, that's why I bought in. I have big hopes on Hedera. I think they're doing things in terms of layer 1 blockchain very different than everyone else. If that's not obvious, because they're a hash graph, not a blockchain. Not that that matters. They also are doing unique things like their fees. People say, well, their fees are low and someone else's fees are low and someone else's, but they have made their fees, as you may know, as US dollars, which means if the price of Hedera goes up, your fees for transactions on Hedera are still the same. You just pay less Hedera because the fees are denominated in US dollars, whereas other things like Ethereum, the fees are denominated in Ethereum. So if the price of Ethereum goes up, your transactions go up. When you're talking about big companies doing a lot of transactions, they need to know what their costs are going to be. That was brilliant. So that's it for today. I wanted to point out because, you see things jump and you wonder why. Is it just because the market's going on, or did some bogus news come out that's not true? No, a lot of news came out. These transactions started to take off, which is very significant, and they had a lot of good news. Have a great day, and as I always say, hope we can all make generational wealth together with crypto. Thanks for watching.